So we're going to talk about the star seed or star, depending on what's fun for you. I find them to be interchangeable when it comes to the elements of living. But really quickly, why would you even want to know about the elements of living? Like, what's that at all? Some of you might have heard them called like the archetypes of living. We've been doing some calls on the hidden figures and codes for a couple months now. That's been really fun. We've been incorporating art and movement, and that's been really great to have people have these conversations with the archetypes of living or the elements of living, and also how they are aware of dying and how that can actually create more if they're willing to be aware of it and not be at the effect of what we've been told about living and dying. So just a little bit about the elements of living. I'm going to read something that I wrote here so that I don't forget, because there's a lot of information on this. This is just an introduction to this idea, because I've been getting so many messages from y'all about, well, what is this? And I want to know more about the archetypes and where can we find out more? So I'm going to actually do a series, each maybe once a week, same time, same place. You can find them here in the Soaring Beyond Definition group, and I'll pop them on the YouTube channel as well. But that talks about these elements so that you can have them as part of your arsenal. And so what I found is that if people have these elements or archetypes of living as a part of their arsenal, as a part of their awareness, their world, then they can have more exuberant living their way. And so I'm going to be providing some information, these energies. I can even give y'all some exercises and things like that on how to incorporate these elements of living more effectively, and show you kind of how they can show up in your life. But for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. Where you are willing to recognize them, where you're not, to kind of shine a light on where you might be blocking out your awareness to these energies and to these elements, and how you can call upon them, activate them, and create with them in order to have a greater, more joyful life and living. I'm actually writing a book right now on all of these elements, and as I'm writing them, more are showing up. And this all came from my own personal experiences, my own personal journey, my experiences with hundreds of clients, the stories of friends and family, and then most importantly, and this is big, definitely want to recognize this. Most importantly, it's from what I've witnessed and heard from the people who've received the energies of the living and dying body process that I created. And so I created the body process over the course of a couple of months, years ago, been playing with it for years. And then in the last year, since the end of 2019, all of a sudden, when I came out of hiding, when I started really looking at this and being willing to have these conversations more publicly, the archetypes and the elements of living started to show up in my awareness to then co-create with the body process. So you can actually have these energies and be aware of the elements of living for yourself without a session of the living and dying body process. You can also add it into the living and dying body process, or you can just have a living and dying body process without. But one of the things that I've been finding out is that for those that are practitioners or the ambassadors of living and dying, that's what we call them when they've taken the awakening class, is that if they're aware of these elements, they can actually call upon them and co-create with them while they're giving a session to themselves or to other people for greater benefits, for better results, and also for just a lot more ease, a lot more nurturing for everyone involved. It's been wonderful. And we just had a class yesterday, and this one of the Starseed was already talking to us then, and a whole bunch of other ones showed up. Hi, hi, hi. I see your hellos in the chat. Thank you so much. And if you haven't said hello yet, go ahead and say hello. I would love to know that you're here. and let me know what questions you have about the star and starseed element of living. So there are many different elements of living. There's different categories. So I'm going to go through the categories, just name them, and then I'll let you know where the star seed falls. So there's the influencers, there's the distractors, those that distract you from actually living exuberantly. There's the door openers. We've talked about the door opener a little bit before. Let me know if you want that video. There's also a video in our group that where I kind of go through my whole house and highlight some of the elements of living in my own home. The discoverers, the outlaws, the powers, and then where you get to travel through different landscapes, different worlds. That's another element of living. And the celebrants, those that celebrate what's shown up so far. And when you're with them, it's like a big old party. And when you have these energies in your life and in your body, you're way more grateful and celebrate your life more. So the star seed and the star is actually under the category of the discoverer. It's all about where you're seeking ever-present discoveries, where you're willing to actually keep exploring and expanding your world. And they interact. All of these different archetypes and all these different elements of living interact with each other. It just depends on what you'd like to create with your life and what's going on in your life right now. What's showing up and what you prefer to show up, or what you would like more of. So the star seeds, this is a little bit different than maybe what you've heard of if you've been practicing metaphysics, or if you've been doing different spiritual work, if you've been playing around with this different systems of energetic tools. So look at this for any of these talks that we're going to be having moving forward, this series of discussions around different archetypes, and see how it's similar to what you've heard and see where it's a little bit different. And I'm going to try to highlight that for you as well. The star seed, I like saying star seed in some contexts, and I like saying star in other, but they really are interchangeable in my world and just from my perspective. When you're willing to actually be aware of all of these elements of living, you get to start discovering more and more of yourself. So it's like you're traveling through space, which is why I put this background behind me today, a little just to add that energy in a little bit more. We're going to be traveling together and discovering all these different aspects of ourselves that have been showing up in the past, present, and future, be it this life or other lives. You don't have to believe in past lives to benefit from activating and co-creating with a star seed energy, with a star seed element of living. But it invites us to actually keep exploring ourselves. Keeps being like, oh, what's the world beyond that? What's something else that I could choose? What's another adventure that I could have as a part of my living? So I've been finding it very effective for people that feel like they don't really have a purpose, where they're like, life is kind of like meh right now. And so I actually will call upon the star seed energy when I get a yes for co-creating with it, when I'm around certain people, or when I'm giving a living and dying session where someone has expressed that they're feeling really blah, really down, shut down, depressed. Recently, I've been using that with different family members who have been feeling like they're kind of don't really know why they're here on the planet anymore. For those that receive sample sessions from me, and they were expressing that they were feeling suicidal, or they didn't really have a sense of joy, the star seed element of living can invite those to discover another possibility with that, beyond that. Okay. The other piece with the star seed is it's a recognition. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I love pirates. I love history. I love, the stories where people are traveling to different realms. And I definitely am certain that I've been a pirate in many lives. And one of the things that I was looking at when I was having these conversations with the starseed energy within me, because it's really about recognizing where you're a starseed, where you have this element of living, or you be this element of living yourself, and then you activate it and call upon it more within yourself and in your life. It's not actually about, oh, it's something outside of you that you then are calling in and having a conversation with. So I want to make that very clear. You are actually this already. You already have this capacity within you. It's a matter of, are you willing to acknowledge it and then use it to your advantage? So with the star seeds, when if for pirates, I love how pirates and sailors, the mariners, they would use the stars to guide them. That was be like their map, their compass, and they would use this idea of direction with the stars. And that's really beautiful. And then I was like, oh wow, I love that. And then I was like, wait, what's that other piece there? And I continued to lean into my awareness about it. And I realized that the pirates and sailors and those that maybe love looking at the stars, there is this immensity that is intrigue and that is seductive about the stars with us. It's like falling in love when you're kind of falling into it, and there's this spaciousness and you feel lighter and you feel happier looking at the stars and leaning in. And I feel like that's what happens when you actually discover more of yourself. So it's this recognition of us when we look at the stars, when we acknowledge, oh wow, the stars are me and I'm the stars. And so being guided, pirates, sailors, mariners, whoever loves the stars and are looking at the stars for guidance, those that love astrology, it's a recognition of ourselves. And we're falling in love with ourselves every time we are willing to recognize our galactic celestial elements. This fact that, the same matter that exists, that creates our bodies now, has been existing for millennia, for so long. It's just taking a different form. And I just really love that. I was like, wow, when I call upon the star seed for me, it's when I'm maybe having some like self-esteem issues, when I'm like, oh, that little dimple on my side here. Oh, am I losing a little bit of tone on my belly today? When I get those thoughts about like, oh, I should work out more, or, oh, am I getting more wrinkles? Those kinds of sneaky, toxic thoughts. Well, I'm like, oh gosh, I just asked in general, well, which element of living can I play with today? Which archetype could contribute to me today? And sometimes the star seed will show up so that I can once again fall in love with me and my body again, and recognize the beauty that I am now and that I always have been, past, present, and future. So I wonder if that's something that could actually contribute to some of you who might be having some questions about how to build up your confidence more, how to fall in love with yourself a little bit more. Here, one moment, I'll be right back. So the other piece as well is it's about the beginning. So that's when I actually say more star seed than star. It's about where you'd like to begin, as if it was a blank slate with your life. So thank you for everyone who voted for us to talk about this one first. And I think that's very apropos, because star seed's about planting the seeds to have a different future, to have something show up. And starting with the star seed today and at the beginning of this series of discussions, I think is a wonderful awareness on your part. So please acknowledge what you're aware of. And anytime I'm about to start a new beginning, start a new relationship, go and start a new job, maybe move to a new place, and I've done a lot of moving, calling upon the star seed would really facilitate some more ease. So the last year was really not that I wasn't already aware of these elements. It just was this very concentrated, like, here, this is what you know, and 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 all these aha moments and downloads of all these things that I've been aware of my whole life about the elements of living, because I've always been aware of where people have been willing to live really lit up, really animated, really happy, and where they've absolutely been not willing to choose what's going to create a beautiful life, a life that really lights them up and helps them get out of bed in the morning and gives them a sense of, hey, I'm contributing to the world and this is freaking awesome. And so I invite you all to activate and call upon the starseed, say, hey, starseed, hey, whatever element of living that will contribute to me and play with me today, what can we create together today? And see what shows up over the next week as you're playing with it, and post it in our group and let me know, hey, when I just did this quick exercise, a quick ask of what can I create with the starseed energy today, this showed up. And I'd love to celebrate that with you. The starseed very much, even though it's a discoverer, it plays a lot with some of the other elements, particularly the celebrants and the powers. There, I was talking about the star seed in the awakening class yesterday, and Severine, my worldwide coordinator, she was in the class translating for francophones, and thank you again, Severine, for that. And one of the things that she realized was that she had just gotten a graphic from another group that she was a part of, or somewhere else that she saw this on social media, that talks about how literally today, when we decided we're going to start the series, didn't have this detail in my world, but today is the new galactic year, and they're calling it the yellow electric seed. And electric is one of the powers. And we've had a video and we talked about that before. It's one of the elements of living that's a power that we can be, to kind of zap the limitation out of our world. They can be a way for us to time travel. If we, like, if you've seen in the movie Terminator or something, where they zap down and all of a sudden they land from this other time into the time where they get to talk and warn people about the Terminators and those robots taking over the world. So there's a lot with electric. We'll talk about it another time. Let me know if you're interested in learning more. But the star seed very much interacts with the celebrants, and I really want to acknowledge that, because every time you start discovering more of you, it is totally an invitation for us to celebrate. Hey, I have another gift and capacity that I'm acknowledging. Oh my God, this totally showed up. This thing that I've been asking for so long, that I planted the seed for so long ago, and now it's here. And oh my gosh, more of this, please. More of this, please. So that's part of how it can interact with a lot of things. And the graphic that Severine mentioned, thank you. I that's me being electric with my excitement. Thank you for your comment about loving my excitement. The graphic that Severine sent me about the new galactic year of the yellow electric seed, it actually complements what I know about the star seed, and there's some aspects of it that are a little bit different, that aren't related necessarily to the element of living. But the part that is so cool is that it's really often about planting seeds for the future and seeing where your place is in the world, in the galaxy, where your place is in your community. If you would like to work and actually contribute to your community more effectively, I find that I do a lot of, non-for-profit work. I volunteer a lot. You guys have heard some of my stories of my work with the Rape Crisis Center, working in communities to do civic advocacy. I do go to protests sometimes. Well, if you would like to be more effective with that and actually plant seeds for the future that will create something different, that create something more expansive, where we can all receive this different possibility, maybe consider calling upon the starseed energy and activating the starseed energy that's within you already for that. Ask questions and see if this is the element of living that will contribute to that showing up faster and easier, or if it'll be something else. It might be one of the other 50 or so elements of living that we're already aware of and that's already shown up. So that's another wonderful way that I love using it. And then when it does show up and it makes it easier and you start seeing that possibility show up from what you're doing in the world and what you're creating in your communities, celebrate it. Celebrate it. And we can talk about some of the celebrants in a future call. But that's what I would love for y'all to play around with this week, and let me know what shows up for you as you're playing around and activating and calling upon you as a star seed and a star in the world. And what I love about the Soaring Beyond Definition group is we are all stars. We are all stars in this constellation of this community that we're creating here. And then we have these all intersecting constellations and communities. Like we have the expansive energies groups, right? We have, gosh, we have the Academy for the Seen and Unseen. We have the virtual writing retreat. All of these communities, you are all your own little constellations. And then we have this huge galaxy, right? And I would love to keep expanding that, and also get that there are these strands that connect us all. Like, you know, when you see those constellation drawings and they actually draw out and connect the stars to each other that make that constellation. Like, what if we acknowledge how much more connected we really are and to each other, and then how much more connected we are to our past, to our present, and to our future than maybe we've ever acknowledged, and then use that awareness by actually being aware, being willing to have these conversations with the elements of living to create phenomenal lives, to create lives that just, they're beyond our wildest dreams. That's my life right now, is beyond my wildest dreams. And I also know more is possible, especially now when I'm talking to you. So, it's the energy here with you all here listening to this, and I'm aware of those that are going to be listening to this in the future, and then me in the future, and what this creating. We are opening doors with this. So this is how it can also intersect with the door opener element of living. You see, they're all connected. They're all connected. That's so great. And we're all connected. So thank you for nurturing our connection. Thank you for being willing to have this conversation with me. And if you have any questions about anything I brought up, let me know. How has the Starseed energy shown up in your life already so far? Where have you already been perceiving where you are this in the world? And where else would you like this to invite you and the people that you love and care about, maybe the people of the world, to something else? And then let me know. Okay. Gosh, thanks so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Bye for now.